Oh, here we go.
Sir. Yeah, I was asking if you had... Video's over. Video's done. It's done.
So for stuff like this,
Yeah.
what comes first? To walk me through the process.
Perfect point just pertaining to that song. So the dance part of this video is a challenge on TikTok. So that first thing for me was like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna do this challenge, but just like sirdushon it up. I was just
Yeah.
like, let's just do it. So what came first was the track. Then I was like, all right, so I'm gonna obviously do the dance. So that's that point. But I was like, I know I want to make it, as I said, like very sirdushon. All right, so what can I do to create that approach? So I'm like, okay, how about having a Jehovah Witness joke of being heckled and then just going complete ballistic. So yeah, it was like the dance was first.
And then like stuff like this, like the assets.
Yeah.
Where do you get these assets? Are they in a folder in your computer, or are you just editing and you're like swirly lollipop bop?
It's so funny because I was like, I know these details, like someone's picking it apart. Like I love that.
Yeah.
So you see that women, men,
Yeah, right
kids
here.
in the back. So I literally screenshotted that. I think that was off of like the Forever 21 website or something like that. Or like I don't even know. I was like, what can I do to like make it just hella sporadic? The checkerboard, like I made myself. That's like an easy like After Effects checkerboard thing. You can just
Yeah.
like size it. That yellow thing, that's like a PQUI like toy set. So that's like an After Effects asset. And then those lollipops are just like PNG files. I was like, what can I do and like how can I animate them to make them feel
Yeah.
very like Madoka, very anime kind of space? And then like even that's a character right there, that little
Right here.
bunny looking thing. That's Cube from the anime Madoka.
Where do these come from? Like, because this feels very animated to me. Like the way it is,
Yeah.
expansion, like all of that stuff is so dope. Where does this come from? And how did you even start this? Like, are you like, okay, silhouette, multiples of me, there's like a reflection of you here.
So I start off with like I love masking myself because it just gives me so much freedom. Like I can just play with anything. Cause it's like you mask yourself out, you can put yourself literally anywhere. Like that's like just the basis. So I love like trails, like even the game because the inspiration for this came from the game Metal Gear, I think it's called Vengeance or something like that, where you're not playing as the character Snake, you're playing as the character Raiden or like Raiden, and he's all sword, all like analytics and info and like super fast movements like that. So to like dash back like that even kind of references Devil May Cry because it's very fast movement, sword movement, very surreal.
Yeah.
So starting with masking, I was like, all right, cool, like let's mask this out. I love making trails of myself just to portray speed because it's like, all right, so I was in this spot, boom, suddenly I'm over here. So you see like a trail of not dust, but like colors. I love messing with fire, so you can kind of see like a little
right here.
piece right there. So doing that, even to like distortion. You familiar with like turbulent displacement?
No.
Okay, so that's just like it's a preset in After Effects, but like it allows you to just like kind of warp and liquefy the screen.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like turbulent displacement, that little asset
Right
in the
here.
top, a clock thing. That's from his name is Edward OV. He makes like really cool assets. But yeah, and then like the DDR, I'm glad you pointed it out in the video because like Dance Dance Revolution was so heavily a part of my childhood.
Me too.
So,
Like as soon as I saw it, I was like, I know where that's from.
Yeah. So I was like, bro, like, what's another thing? Again, tying into video games that can be implemented. So even to have people like point that out in the comments, I was like, yes. Like
Yeah.
I'm so glad we're here because I used to be afraid of how niche my work was because it was like, okay, so I know I'm putting in these references that can only be really relatable to those that are in it, but if I don't ever put it in there, for one, it's not authentic to me, but for two, it's never going to reach those people that can actually identify that.
Yeah.
So it was so rewarding, like seeing people being like, "Oh, bro, this is what's the not Killer Instinct? It's a game people kept referencing where I was like, I have never played that game, but I'm glad you guys are getting this out of that. But like for you to be like, oh, that's a Dance Dance Revolution era.
Yeah.
And
It
people were
was
like,
so like,
oh,
right?
this is Metal Gear, and I'm like, yes. So I'm kind of like sitting on the edge of my seat, just like, okay, are people gonna get it and see it? And then it's like, oh, people are really getting it, and it's just like it helps find community because we're all geeks in this. Like we love
Super
this stuff.
geek.
So.
These are Easter eggs. These are Easter
Yeah,
eggs for us. This is what I'm saying.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sick.
Oh man.
Yep.
Okay. Before this, you had 2 videos. I feel like for the Nike campaign, or was it
Yes.
Nike? How did that? Before we actually get into the video, how did that come
Yeah.
about? And like, it was actually for Nike, right? Like you actually
Yeah.
they because in my head I was watching it, I was like, how did he get Nike to agree to just be himself and do his own thing? Because you know how usually with big corporations they kind of have like their grubby little hands on your art. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Oh
So
my God.
how did you get to
Bro.
do this? And we'll watch the other one after. But how
Yeah.
did you get to like keep creative control? Because this feels very Sir Dushon.
This happened this was like mid-March, mind you. I was sleeping out of my car for like 5 months. So from January like 7th until like late May, maybe like on the 30th, I was sleeping in my car. So this was like a really miraculous thing for me because it was like I had my family looking at me crazy, like, yo, obviously this whole creation thing isn't going the way you desire. And then like my friends obviously concerned. And I shit you not, I'm at my godmom's house because she was like a huge help in this. Like she would let me stay at her place for like a week or so. She would let me dog sit just to create a safe space. I'm watching like a movie with her. We're having a great time. I get an email from an agency and they're like, "Hey, love your videos, dude. We have someone that's a shoe client of ours who loves your stuff as well, and we want to know if you're down to do something. Let us know. We'll have you sign an NDA. We'll get you going." I'm like, okay. I'm super skeptical about stuff like
Of
this,
course,
especially
yeah.
too with having to maintain faith in a situation like this, because it was like, sleeping out of my car, my routine was like, all right, I would wake up in the car, I would go take a walk, I go pee, boom, I hit like a Jack in the Box, I go brush my teeth and everything, then I hit a Starbucks or the mall that's nearby to go charge up my phone and MacBook, and I'm getting to work. Like I'm editing 8, 12 hours within the day. And so to have a moment like that, I'm like, okay, like something's up here. And then I signed the NDA and they're like, okay, cool. So we're happy to announce that we want you to do a campaign for the new Nike Air Max DN release. And bro, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm even talking about it. Like, bro, I was like, whoa, like what? And I mean, my godmom was there. She heard me like respond. She's like, "Oh, what happened? What happened? What happened?"
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, like Nike. Oh my God, and they want me to do a campaign, all this stuff. So we run through the entire thing. I'm just super stoked because it's like, that's everything you could hope for in a situation like this, where it's like, bro, like I spent so much time wishing for an opportunity and like, all right, so I know I'm doing this thing. I know I'm supposed to trust the process. I know this is what feels best for me. I love creating. Me working a 9 to 5 doesn't make sense in my mind. Like something has to give. So moving through the process, they were super gracious of just being like, yeah, so we want you to do your thing. Like we
Yeah.
love your look, we love your image, we love how your approach is. So pretty much the idea was just like, in what ways can you bring a sense of empowerment to the shoe, and what does the shoe do for you? What's a day in the life of wearing the Air Max DN?
Wow.
So that's where ultimately the creative control was just really left in my hand. They're like, okay, so do a treatment, figure it out, do your thing, bring it back to us, we'll review it. If it's cool, great. If we have notes, we'll let you know. And it just kind of went from there. So it was so open, so cool. Shout out to them. They were
That's
such
dope.
a great pocket of this year for sure. A lot of hope. So yeah,
That's
the
dope.
creative control, they were just like, do the thing.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
good.
yeah. Do you?
So
Do you?
yeah.
What?
So yeah.
Okay, roughly, what did the treatment look like? Where do you even start? What were they
I
reading?
the original one before
Okay.
it got like revised. So the video will start off with a floating 3D scan of the Air Max DN, in which will glitch out into forming my body piece by piece, highlighting the DNs. The trend of choice is the PS2 filter trend, which is set on a picture that slowly begins to transform into a PlayStation game graphic games. With this, the beginning glitching of my body and the shoes will continue for about 3 seconds before I stomp my right foot, which creates a distortion and shifts the screen into my own 8-bit game. So there we are right there. Oh,
Yeah.
this is cool. Holy shit.
Yeah.
The game being a Super Mario-like side-scroller in which the objective is to collect DNs. The more DN icons I collect, the stronger I become, which leads me into realizing this newfound but familiar power. I stomp about 3 times, which instantaneously shifts my location all 3 times. The shoes respond in a, yep, I just did that kind of way. As I look at them in shock, I charge up my power and release an energetic explosion in which sends the camera flying back up until it reaches a closing Nike logo.
That's so ill. That's so
Thank
dope.
you, bro.
This is the other one.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
19?
Yes.
You look older. That's not a compliment.
What made you do all the sound effects with your mouth?
All right. I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad. So 2 reasons. First reason, so just to creative control, one of the things that they wanted to make sure was a focal point was not using anything copywritten. Like that was like
Yeah.
to the
That's
T,
usually
like,
the big rule.
yeah, oh man. And that's where like the TikTok copyright thing was like really prevalent. Not starting, I don't think, but like it was just like, hey, like we want to make sure. So that for me was like, okay, so I know I use sound effects and like that's a part of just that creation. So I was like, dang, I can't use sound effects. All right. But then I was like, I beatbox. Like I'm familiar with like sounds and whatnot. So that's even cooler. Because at first I was like, damn, no sounds. But I was like, if I do use my mouth for this, like that's even cooler. Because here I am, again, working with the Nike campaign. And then on top of that, my mouth is the sound effects. Like I know I can't use the sounds, but like I can throw that on. And what really inspired that more, Tyler the Creator, he did a campaign for Louis Vuitton through his brand Golf LaFleur, and I watched his campaign rollout, or at least like the promo video for it, and it was so dope watching him do it in his style because it was so unorthodox. Where it was like you see him pushing in this giant case that was representative of like his design, but he's like breathing hella heavy, and it's like, oh, this is something that should be cut out. And then he's like, all right, go. And then you see them like do the little clicker thing with like the timestamp, and then him like adjusting the models and like getting them right, and then being like, oh, okay, cool. Something falls off and something goes wrong, quote unquote, but it fits perfectly. And it's so much of him. And watching that, I think like a couple weeks before I shot this was like, damn, he's doing it his own way. It's not clean cut. It's not super to the T. It's very much Tyler and how he would express it. So that for me was like, oh, so I know I can't do it the clean cut way that I want to do it in regards to using the sounds, but if I do it with my mouth, not only is that cool, but it's like I have an example of someone who is doing a very big and branded thing, but in his own way, and like he's doing it quirky and blah. So that was like extra confirmation in that sense. So yeah, sound copyright, but it was like, oh, but this is the plus because there's like another ability of mine that I could showcase. And it was like, that's cool. So,
I always feel like boundaries will always breed creativity. You know what I mean? Like sometimes people are like, nah, I can't be creative because I got this box. But it's like, yo, sometimes it's like they give you the box. It's like, how deep does this box get though?
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Your final challenge.
You got it, it took and he said it was cool. I could tell it was definitely an issue. Back home, we swinging with business. If it's small, let me know it's an issue. If you're pretty, I'ma hide the kitchen. If you're ugly, I hit
earlier in the conversation, you talked about some of the moves, the dance moves, breed some of the actions and what happens. You know, the target, the kissing, all that kind of stuff. Where did this start, and how did this start?
So this one, so I would make dance videos. That was like my core. And I was like, all right, you know, the video that you first reviewed, like that was of course taken off. I was like, all right, cool, this is great. So I want to tap back into that dancing space because I kind of abandoned it for a second because I just started really tapping into editing. So I was like, all right, let's like reignite that. Let's do it. So I was in my godmom's backyard, like 3 in the morning. I was like, all right, cool. Let me find a song. And that song by Lil Yachty, I think it's called not I think it's Striker or something of that sort. And I heard it and I was like, this one. All right, cool. So I started with like doing choreography. So
Okay.
in that, the choreography started because I was like, okay, this is a dance video. So let's do that. I want to have it shot in the bathroom the way I used to do these old bathroom shot dance videos. So that was like the start and the theme. And then it's funny because there's a comment that someone made where they're like, bro, like as you said, like where do you even like start with something like this? Like how does your ideas
That's
just
like
start?
majority of your comments. A majority of your
Yeah,
comments is like, "How do you do this?
yeah,
Give me a tutorial." Or
yeah,
when I grow up, I want to be like you." These are like just
yeah.
that's all the comments,
It
bro.
just it's so sweet because it's just like I mean I remember there's a video in particular of I don't know if you're familiar with the dancers Lay Twins,
Yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
like
Of course.
yeah, so like
Legendary.
there's a short film about them, and it was the first time I had consciously like noticed the focal length of lenses and the way they were shot, and it was so
Mm.
in depth. And I remember being the only one in the comment section, like, "Hey, what is this camera called? And what lenses do you use?" I even emailed the guy. I was like, "What kind of camera?" So I know that feeling. So to see that be thrown back at me is like, ah, dude, that's why I'm so open with it because I just
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. It's love.
So
It's love.
absolutely, absolutely. So just in regards to this, like, I mean, to start with the dancing, I'm like, all right, cool, and
Yeah.
then for this one, I kind of just freeformed it. I didn't really
That's
have,
crazy that you freeforms. Like
yeah.
this is where the experience and the life stuff comes into play.
So that background right there, that for me is like, I know that's directly inspired by Virtual Self, which is an alias that Porter Robinson created, which ties back into raving, where it's like, I love that 2000s Japanese core PlayStation 2 kind of feel, where you have
Mm.
like analytics in the back and like very VHS analog, also mixed in with masking and just distortion. So like stuff like that, where I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like that's what gets me going. Listen to even watch this, I'm like, holy shit, what was I
Dude,
doing?
it's crazy that you say that. Could you imagine what we're all thinking when we watch this? Our minds are blown. Like,
Bro, oh, thank
this is
you.
what I'm asking. I'm like, how? Like, where? Like,
This is where I'll get like kind of crazy with it because I even explained in the comment where like there's nothing more exciting than like having like a full day of editing and I get really far and then I'm like, okay, like there's not much more I can add to it. I wake up the next morning, I'm looking at it, I'm like,
I'm at, yeah, yeah. Here's another full day of
mm,
editing.
yeah, like let me go even crazier. So the layers like quintuple. I love the term brain rot, but it's like if brain rot had like a really crazy trip, but was intentional.
Yeah, yeah. Very
Like,
intentional.
yeah.
Bro, what? I'm watching
Oh,
this like,
wow.
and I'm watching these late too at like 2, 3, and I'm like,
Oh,
guy, am
yes.
I tripping out or am I? It's like, do I need to rewatch this tomorrow? So for this specifically, classic audio and like,
Mhm.
are you playing around too with the audio, the track? Because there's so many different like
Oh,
layers. Almost feel like.
man, I wish I could take credit for that. That's I found that sound like I think in like 2018 or 2019, but it's like I think it's called like the Wii soundtrack, but if you were in a fever dream or something
Yeah.
like that. I was sitting on this idea
Wow.
for years. So I shot this in what, 2023? So from 2018 to like 2023,
It
I
was
was
in a
like, how
file.
would I do
It
this?
was in a bag. Oh,
Yeah.
what?
Oh, it was chilling, bro. Just like, how would I execute this? And it was like, all right, it's time. So yeah, that was a sound within itself. It's somewhere on YouTube. It's just like the Wii soundtrack if you were in a fever dream. And I was like, okay, so how can I fever dream this up?
I love that. I love how like the audio just triggers it for like art. There would be no one else in the world who would have thought to make a video just like this. This is like a one of one. You know what I mean? Like this is
Thank
wow.
you. I grew up on like the early YouTube with like memes, even like Pepe the Frog. Like that was like everything, even down to like the MacBook buffer
Yeah.
icon. Like that's just internet kid galore. So being an internet kid, I'm like, okay, I want this to be an internet kid, like the epitome of internet kid. Let's do that to this very nostalgic sound. So that was like definitely like an intentional play point to even like the cursor
Yeah,
finger,
the
those
cursor
8-bit
finger.
explosions. I would like to officially give this video a title. Just call it Internet Kid.
Internet kid. Here we
Yeah.
go, man. I think my favorite is this part.
Oh, nice. Yes.
Okay, for that part specifically,
Yeah.
when you're editing it, like how does this happen? How does this happen? in your mind?
I actually remember editing this
Because you're like, oh, I'm hip thrusting both left, right, and this let's extend the screen a little bit, and then boom, I'm gone.
I was actually running out of like clips at that part. I was like, okay, so I've already did this like tri-camera dance scene with like just the utmost continuity, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna use it again because I kind of don't know what to do right here. And then I was like, all right, so I'm doing this move. I don't even think that was like to the beat. I don't remember. Yeah, it wasn't to the beat. I was just like, all right, cool, like boom, 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 boom. Yeah. So okay. So me doing the boom boom, that was the only thing I did. And I was like, okay, so there's 3 beats here. And like having like musicality as a dancer, I was like, no, it has to hit and click. So I'm like, all right, I put myself in there. I think I matched myself out, and then I was like, oh wait, like
That's on beat.
this is on beat, yeah. And then I was like,
there you go.
okay, so internet kid, very random. I was like, let me just like make it an effect where it's extending. So it was like boom boom, and it was like boom boom, and I was like, oh, that works. And then me disappearing
It's
was
on
the
beat.
final cut.
There you go.
So,
on beat.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
thank you, bro.
Dude, see, it's stuff like
very
that
excited.
people don't, and the musical, you as a dancer, the music, listening to that translates really well into the editing, the beats.
Thank you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for
on
sure.
rhythm, and then it's like it doesn't actually even need to be a cut. It could be a visual cue. It could be text.
Yeah,
It could kind of be anything.
for sure. The
Wow.
visual cue, absolutely.
Why is it freedom that you fear? I don't know what's on the other side. So it's enslavement that you trust. How does one know that they're free? Wait, no!
Of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
Thank you. You chose it.
The whole idea of freedom and escaping the matrix.
Mm-hmm.
Where did this come from?
So I've always been just a huge advocate for being able to tell this exact message, like just to have your own thoughts, to bring on a sense of awareness, to question. I mentioned earlier just the word curiosity, just to be curious, again, just to question, like, what is around you? Why is this pattern something that you follow? Why is it so easy for us to obey? Things like that. And I remember the idea, it came, I was drawing actually. I had just bought crayons that day. I was like, I need to get some crayons, just need to draw it today. I drew for about 2 hours and I got lost in it. I was like, well, this is beautiful. Okay, cool. And I've kind of had that idea in mind of just like walking through the stages of freedom, from like imprisonment of the mind to the acknowledgement and awareness of the surroundings and being able to pinpoint that something is off, or just pinpointing just, again, that awareness, and then ultimately to freedom, to that liberation within an enclosed space. I refer to it as circulation, which the definition of circulation is to roam freely within an enclosed space, which I deem to be this matrix. So I like finished coloring. It was like 7 p.m. The sun was setting. From where my window was, like I was able to sun gaze. I love sun gazing because that just for me is just like amplification of like ideas and nutrients, and of course decalcifying of the third eye. And I remember sitting there and being like, "Got it, cool, got it." And I saw like all 3 points of like again to that imprisonment, to awareness, to full liberation, and just that dialogue of going back and forth with someone who not only is awakened but also can acknowledge that inner state of being awakened into the other person, but being able to trigger it through questions, being able to trigger it through just like, so why do you fear freedom? And to have an honest response of like, I just don't know what it looks like over there, like this is all I know, which in most cases is right. For most people, this is all we know. So then to tie into a point of like, all right, say I can throw you into some kind of simulator where you can experience every bit of pivot, of challenge, of awakening in these sections, and then you come out of it. What did you see? And ultimately, it's up to you in regards to what your takeaway is. It's your perception at the end of the day. So that's where that line of like, you chose it. It's like you could have gone through this whole experience and could have still remained in that state of being asleep. And to be honest, kudos to you.
For me, this was a lot deeper than just the visuals. It was like that's why I wanted to talk about this and like kind of, end off on this one because this one was this one was it was good.
Man, what am I? That's like top 3 for me. That's what I was saying. I love the sporadic and the blah blah blah. That's man. Oh, I
love it. Yeah. You love all different types of videos, but there are certain ones that you're like, I get it because this is one of my favorites too. I would say.
Man, thank you. Thank you.
And okay, just for a technical aspect, this piece.
Yeah.
What is this? How did you do this?
So of course I love frame by frame animation. So like me animating my eyes, that's like an easy thing. I'm just drawing my eyes, and then that effect specifically is called card dance. So it's like a simulator of being able to like pull out like pixels.
What?
And I think I moved it in the Z axis, which is outwards, because I was like, okay, so if I'm gonna emulate an emulator essentially, or like a simulator, like what's gonna truly portray this shift into this new space? So that for me is like, if my body is being pulled away and I'm obviously in this utmost shock, like I feel like that tells the story the most. So yeah, that I love the card dance effect. It's in the simulation, which is funny. It's in the simulation column of presets on After Effects. So
that's wild.
Yeah, so fitting. So
I appreciate you coming on and just having these conversations. Just like for me myself, which is kind of selfish. Yeah, I love these, but for other people, hopefully, a lot more people get to see these and get inspired and just be more thoughtful with content creation and making art. All right, man, take it easy.
All right, you too, bro.
Peace.
Later.